So a ton of info on Caldera and the Warzone Pacific experience coming next week with Season 1 and the integration for Vanguard. That came out today, but it got me thinking, with a countdown timer to that starting, what should you be using your time most efficiently with? What should you be ranking up first and foremost to make sure that you have the best weapons possible within Warzone? Now, of course, there are a ton of variables that go into that, but I wanted to give you guys my thoughts, my opinions here on what I think will be the best weapons immediately jumping into Warzone coming out of Vanguard. So today, we're going to break down the 10 weapons that I think you should be leveling up right now in preparation for the new Warzone Pacific experience and jumping into Caldera. That said, as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you guys agree with this list? Is there anything you think deserves to be on this list? Whatever the case, drop it down below. But if you enjoy the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video. Let's aim for 2,000 likes on this. And of course, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, Vanguard, and Season 1. We got you covered with all of that. So if you guys are a part of that nearly 70% of viewers that are not subscribed and you'd like to join us on that road to 500,000 subscribers, all while staying in the loop with everything, I'd love to have you in the community. And finally, a thanks to my friends at HelloFresh for sponsoring this video, but more on them in a bit. But let's jump into it. So when it comes down to it, first and foremost, there's no real definitive way to say if this list is right or wrong just yet. It's based off of hunches, some educated guesses on where we've seen the sort of meta and best weapons stem from in both Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War. What properties made a gun dominant? What made it something that you really wanted to use? And then kind of applying that to Vanguard and seeing just what you should be ranking up to have the best possible chance from day one to do well with these Vanguard weaponry. Now, that said though, this year there's a few more variables to consider. Firstly, perhaps one of the big question marks is that of, well, are we going to see what these stats are in Vanguard transfer over directly to what we've seen within Warzone? We've seen disconnect in weapon balance from Cold War to Warzone, and even to a lesser degree, Modern Warfare to Warzone, where the guns that were built for Modern Warfare had some quirks that transferred over differently to Warzone. Now, Sledgehammer's lead designer, Zach Hodson, went on record a few weeks ago by saying that every weapon was purpose-built for Vanguard, but were all built with Warzone in mind. So whether or not that's a one-to-one, we don't quite know. Whether or not it's a very close to one-to-one, we don't know. But there's always going to be that variance in how things perform in MP versus how they perform in Warzone, because TTK is going to be drastically different due to armor. If something absolutely melts in MP, it's not necessarily going to melt directly within Warzone because that TTK is roughly doubled. But that said, when we take a look at the key factors that we should be considering when building a weapon and determining what is the best case for a lot of your engagements, you got to consider things like damage potential and that faster TTK, the recoil control potential, meaning that you don't want to just have your gun bobbing everywhere in a gunfight, and also that ammo availability. For Warzone, that 60-round mag since Modern Warfare has kind of been that sweet spot. It allows you to have ample amount of ammo in, say, solos and duos, but you can also wipe a squad without having to reload in, say, things like quads. And in Vanguard, that's going to be a category that's under a lot of scrutiny because there's a lot of weapons that don't have great ammo magazine upgrades without sacrificing other key bits of, say, things like damage. Now, new to this year also are proficiencies, kits, and ammo types, some things that may be some big variables in what determines what weapons thrive, whereas others could just fall. Now, with all of that in mind, let's start with these weapons that I think could turn out to be meta, or at the very least would be incredibly viable. Number one on this list, I think the Automaton. I've talked about this within Vanguard, and I said that this is probably the unsung best weapon within the game right now. Everybody still gravitates towards that STG, that MP40, but the Automaton is a laser pointer, and with its high rate of fire, magazine capacity, easy to control recoil, and damage properties, it is absolutely something that shreds across an entire map. And when you consider Warzone is predominantly medium to long range engagements, that's something that is right up this weapon's alley. Think the ease of use of the Kilo in Modern Warfare's main meta, or the Grau perhaps, but with a higher rate of fire and potentially more damage if things all end up staying relatively the same. That would be insanely good in relation to use of the Automaton, so that's probably the one that I would highly recommend ranking up for sure. And if anything else, it's killer within Vanguard and is absolutely something you'll have a great time with as is. Before we continue, a big thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit, which makes cooking at home easy, affordable, and incredibly tasty. I'll be the absolute first to tell you that my time management is horrendous, and especially during these November and December months with tons of content to make spread across multiple different launches of either the actual games or new seasons of DLC content. So they're incredibly time-saving while providing great quality dishes. When the average American spends 41 minutes per grocery store visit, I gotta tell you, with my experience during launch windows these last couple of years, to be able to just take those chef-curated meals and have them delivered without the travel and shopping time has been a lifesaver. With pre-portioned ingredients, there's less prep for you and even less wasted food, so win-wins all around. With more 5-star reviews than any other meal kit and meal prep service on the market, you can try it out and see firsthand why it's a cut above the rest. With a variety of meals, add-ons for breakfast, desserts, snacks, and many more, there's bound to be something for everyone. So if you've got a busy daily life and sometimes you just don't have the time to go out and shop, then prep a meal for yourself, HelloFresh is that solution. Thanks to my friends at HelloFresh, you can use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use code Espresso14 to get up to 14 free meals, 3 gifts, and free shipping, because who doesn't love free, right? With the rush of Cyber Monday still going on, now is as best a time as any to check it out. So check the link in the description below if you guys are at all interested, and once again, thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. The next weapon is the NZ41. This one might come as a surprise to some people, but to me, this very much so mimics a lot of the properties as to what we saw with, say, the AMAX from Modern Warfare, and a little bit whenever that carried over into whenever Black Ops Cold War was integrated. The NZ41 is very similar to that AMAX in mag size, damage, and recoil. The mag size is, again, probably one of the big things that hinders this weapon altogether, but truthfully, if you can get a hang of a smaller ammo count by comparison, like an MP, I normally like to run those higher magazines, but if you're accurate with your shots, this weapon has, by default, the best damage per shot value tied only with the bar, so it's something that absolutely can work out well for you, and maybe worth ranking up just in case it does turn out to be an insanely good weapon within Warzone. Next, I want to talk about the M1928, playing a little bit more close quarters here for this, because this is one of those weapons that has a couple of key defining features that makes it stand out against the other SMGs in its category. Now, coming back to those 3 main pillars that we talk about, recoil control, damage, and also then the magazine size, the Thompson kind of covers all of that, all while being super mobile. The recoil itself really isn't that bad to begin with. You have the opportunity of a 50 to 100 round magazine, and of those 50 to 100 round magazines, you can also make those the 8mm rounds, which increase the damage by default. That is something that makes this absolutely shred through your enemies with an MP, and if Warzone's anything like that, sure, it will just be a little bit longer in terms of that TTK because of armor, but you're still going to be frying people. So this one, I absolutely recommend. Probably one of the best SMGs, I think, here in terms of Vanguard, and I do think that it could make its way over into Warzone. The final weapon that I would bank on is the DP27. This kind of reminds me in terms of the Vanguard meta of something like we saw within Warzone, maybe comparable to the Bruin. It doesn't have an absurdly fast rate of fire like the MG42, but it's the second highest within Vanguard right now, plus the ability then to have the 100 round plate mag to add on top of that. It gives you, of course, the ability to take out multiple enemies without having to reload. The recoil by comparison to other MGs is pretty solid and very easy to manage, and you're relatively mobile on top of all of that. So it's definitely one that I think will be the new LMG meta, perhaps, jumping into Warzone with Vanguard, so keep an eye on that one. Now, I want to talk about some weapons that I think will have a place within the sort of Vanguard and Warzone meta, but might not be your top-tier performers. They might still be in the mix with other weapons from, say, Black Ops Cold War and Modern Warfare, at least initially, but may not be absolutely dominant, per se. Number 1, the Volk. This is one that is honestly a great weapon in MP. It's got a 60 round mag, so you cover that base within Warzone as well. Got a decent fire rate, decent damage per shot and range, but it's something that kind of lacks critically whenever you go in long range engagements, or you're going up against other weapons that just may outclass it in terms of the basics of what we just mentioned. This, I think, would be a solid pairing with, say, a sniper rifle, maybe the Swiss K31 from Black Ops Cold War, so kind of taking that place perhaps of the FFAR for sniping, but you also might be able to viably use it as a standalone rifle if you end up using something like the 45 round 30 Russian short magazine. That deals more damage, so assuming that that does not change anything tremendously, it may make it a little bit tougher for, say, things like quads, but the AMAX was also 45 round mag, so could absolutely work. The PPSH is another one that I think has a place, but may not necessarily be entirely dominant. It has a faster fire rate than Cold War's PPSH, so allowing you to unload as much ammo as possible into an enemy, and with a 71 round drum mag, it does have enough ammo to get the job done here. And especially if you're bobbing and weaving in and out of cover against players in close quarters, you can absolutely still make this work. The Owen gun is one that I'm a little on the fence with, but I might just throw in here because it's intriguing to me. It's kind of similar to the Milano. It has a slower fire rate, but with the 8mm Kurz 60-round magazine, you end up getting that ammo that can take out squads, the damage to take down a player within 4 to 5 shots, pending headshot multipliers, controllable recoil, but again, you lose out on that fire rate, so could be detrimental, but could be also something that does have a place eventually. Then finally, to round out this video, I want to talk about the absolute wild cards, the weapons that could be great, but they could fall flat on their face also. Number one, this one might be surprising to some people, maybe out of left field, the Bren. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm only putting this in here because it could work due to the BMG rounds. As we talked about with the bar, and we'll talk about here in a second, the BMG rounds increase that damage, and with the Bren, you end up having the option of a 20 or 50 round magazine with that. But what's even crazier, this weapon doesn't have Vital as a proficiency, but it has a barrel that within Vanguard's MP makes it even deadlier, the Oak and Shield 500mm Model 2B barrel. This offers damage and bullet penetration, meaning that each round shot can do 90 damage. Literally a 2-shot anywhere on the body in MP, and if it stays that way, you're gonna have a 3-shot kill through full armor. That's absurdly fast when you consider the TTK. That's like rivaling the DMR meta back whenever Black Ops Cold War was first integrated. So that could be something that could be insane, but also again, the fire rate, mobility might make it fall a little bit flat. The bar, also in that same vein, those BMG rounds, I think, also make it another wild card because that bar is increased in damage, and as we talked about within MP, it does make it a 2-shot kill at any range. But when you factor in Warzone, that'll make it around a 3 to 4-shot kill, depending on where you end up landing those shots. If you can hit all headshots, it'll be a 3. Anywhere else, it'll be a 4 or 5. So it really comes down to if those BMG rounds work properly, but again, you're losing out a little bit in that fire rate, a little bit of that recoil perhaps, but you do have 9 other attachments to work with when it comes to trying to hone in the recoil. So it does have that possibility, but it might not necessarily be the best option. And finally, I want to talk about the SVT-40 because this might be the biggest wild card here at this. Right now, I don't necessarily see the snipers in the capacity that they are really rivaling that of what we see with the Swiss K31 or the Kar 98K from Modern Warfare. Instead, the sort of sniper may fall to the SVT because the Kovaleskaia barrel adds a larger one-hit kill damage, and with Vital being a proficiency on this, increasing that one-hit kill even further, it makes it anywhere from the chest and above 132 damage per shot, meaning that technically you could 2-shot, but given the lack of mobility, ADS, and more importantly, the rate of fire, it might not be all that great in translation. Very well could be, but also very well couldn't be. This actually might just turn out to be like an armor busting class or something like that, but we'll have to see how that all breaks down. But for right now, that's my pick of the top 10 weapons that you should be leveling right now within Vanguard, getting ready for Warzone. So that's what we're going to call it, and that's where I'd like to turn it to you. What do you guys think here? Do you like this list? Do you think that it's relatively on point? Am I missing anything? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video. And of course, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone. Season 1 of Vanguard and Warzone with Caldera and the new Warzone Pacific Experience is right around the corner, so we'll keep you up to date with everything you need to know in the meantime. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.